Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Williams, President of the Board of Trustees of the Nantucket Historical Association and this year's Chair for Nantucket by Design. And I particularly want to thank our honorary chair, Kathleen Hay of Kathleen Hay Designs. Kathleen has had a many-decade affair with Nantucket, and you see that as it comes through in the warm, welcoming interiors that she creates for her clients. We're so fortunate to have her part of our committee, and we're very fortunate to have her here tonight to introduce Alex.
Tonight, I have the honor of introducing a master of fusing modern and traditional elements, our guest speaker, Mr. Alex Papachristidis. Alex's work has been described as thoughtful, eclectic, and personal. Editors, fellow designers, and clients alike use the word sophisticated to define his elegant approach, his color palette, and the delightful details he incorporates that makes rooms sizzle with style. Born and raised in New York City, Alex traveled widely in his youth, which helped to cultivate his keen eye for interior decorating. He established his own firm in 1987, and today is known for arresting interiors that meld classic motifs with a modern perspective. Alex's work has been featured in Art Digest, Elle Décor, House Beautiful, House and Garden, Southern Accents, InStyle, and the New York Times, to name a few. He's also been featured in a number of published works, including his own book, The Age of Elegance, The Interiors of Alex Papachristidis, published in 2012 by Rizzoli. Now in its fourth printing, the book has garnered praise from clients and readers and critics alike. Alex has been named to Elle Décor's A-list of interior designers, and for several years, including 2020, AD100 list published by Art Digest, which I can assure you is a huge honor in our industry. His second book is slated to be published in a few short years, 2022. Alex will join me after the session in a Q&A, question and answer. There's a little button at the bottom of your screen that you are welcome to click on at any time and start posting questions even while he's speaking, and we will try to get to all of them afterwards. And now, without further ado, Mr. Alex Papachristidis.
Thank you so much. So sweet of you, Kelly. Yes, Kathleen, sorry. So sweet of you, and thank you, Kelly. And I'm honored to be here, and I love the Antique Show, and I'm such a supporter and a fan. I was there last year. I bought a beautiful gilt mirror, a divine miniature child's chair. I bought, I think I bought something silver too. Anyway, I love the Antique Show. I'm a big supporter. I love antiques. They are so important in decoration, and I'm such a collector myself, encourage my clients to collect, so I'm super excited to be here, and I'm very excited to get a preview of the Antique Show and buy something virtually. So I thought it would be fun tonight to show you things that are for sale at the Antique Show, and then examples of how I use them in my own interiors. So we're going to start the presentation now. And here's a floor plan of the show, which is very handy so you know the dealer. So if you like something, you'll know where to find it. So this is wonderful. So this is the first item. So I feel like you can never have enough candlesticks in a house. I find candlelight so romantic. I love these from La Vielle Russie because I love the shape. I find them so organic, sculptural. They feel very rococo. So I think these kinds of things look not only beautiful in a traditional classic interior, but they also add a je ne sais quoi to a modern interior. They're like small sculptures. And again, candles look beautiful. A pair of candlesticks looks beautiful on a coffee table. You can collect them on your dining room table. I myself have a big collection of candlesticks that I use because I love to have a variety of table settings, and I'll take them out and mix them with other candlesticks and with flowers and tureens and just play with the whole story, sort of making fun and unusual tablescapes that are different and conversation pieces. So I love these, and I think they're really beautiful, and I think you can just use them in so many ways. So next is a picture of a dining room that I did in New York, and there are examples of two pairs of candlesticks, one on a credenza in the back of the room, and then on the dining room table. See here, we've mixed it with a beautiful silver tureen, a punch bowl, actually, that we filled with flowers, which I love to use punch bowls and tureens for flower arrangements. I love when they're footed. And the candles just add such romance to the room. This client's dining room is very traditional, as you can see, but the modern art and the sort of clean lines make the room feel very current and updated. And I think that's very important. I think it's the way we use antiques today should be fresh, and we should use them in a new way, mixing them with contemporary elements so they feel relevant and current. The next picture we have is a pair of Gainsborough chairs. And I love Gainsborough chairs. First of all, I think they're super handy, this pair, because they're on casters. And I also love the carving. I love that kind of Chinese fretwork on them. I find a Gainsborough chair is super comfortable. It's comfortable for a man. It's like a hearty seat. It's almost what I call, it's like an 18th century club chair, because it's comfortable and big, and it's an ample seat. And these casters make it easy to move around in a room, which I think, I love the feeling of furniture that you can move around. When you entertain, you can pull the chair this way or pull the chair that way. So it makes the room come to life. The room doesn't become stagnant. And I believe in a lot of pull-up furniture and a lot of seating, because it's fun and it makes conversations in different areas. I love the way they've done these in a solid fabric, because again, it makes them feel current and almost modern, and it shows off the carving so beautifully. So I think these are just wonderful chairs, super handy, easy to use. And now we will have an example of how I've used one. So here in my Kips Bay living room in 2004, I used it with a club chair across the room from it. And again, I've upholstered it in two different satins. It's hard to see in the picture, but you can see the pillows are in satin. And that was a trick that Pauline de Rothschild did in her apartment in London. And it's a wonderful way to create your own stripe. You can take a fabric and cut it up and make something couture and unique and perfect for the room. This was a very special room for me because, well, I adore Kips Bay, and it's a wonderful cause and so great for designers. But it was a special room for me because I got to go to town. That's the fun thing on show house rooms. You can sort of just have your wish list and try incredible things and put them together in your own personal way. And again, I've mixed 18th century furniture and contemporary art. Here's an example of candlesticks on a coffee table, which I think are so fun. And you see they're very sculptural and whimsical. And I love, again, there's a timelessness to the room. I did this room 16 years ago, but I don't feel like it feels dated because there are so many familiar things and contemporary elements. So I always encourage my clients to do that, to keep the room fresh, but still using antiques and traditional things with contemporary things. I think the nicest thing is that we all need to remember in this world that antiques are green, and that is just such a wonderful element to them. And I always encourage young clients who are, they care about the environment, it's important to them. We have something that's so beautifully made and such a quality level that we can't even reproduce many of them today. So it's just a wonderful way to not waste. And it also has so much variety. I also love using antiques because it pushes me to be different every time. I'm not manufacturing using a stock chair that I'm making. Of course, there are times that I use new things, but on the whole, I shop for antiques so that every room is different and every client's home is just a little bit varied and there's their own point of view in it. The next slide. Here is a wonderful highboy. So I was drawn to this piece because I love that architectural element on the top. I love the broken pediment. I love the pilasters on the side. I love the shaped bottom. And for me, you can never have enough storage. So this piece is so practical because you can use it for linens. You can use it for napkins. Again, I'm a little bit of a shopaholic, so I have so many storage issues. I always need places to put things. And I love this because not only is it beautiful, it's practical. So next you see it in an interior, which I did. So here we are in a dining room, and there's a high boy again, and we use it for their linen. Again, I love the concept of having a tall piece of furniture in the room. You know, it keeps the eye moving, and I just think it's such a wonderful thing to have varying heights and a variety of furniture. So I just love that high boy. Here it is mixed with a beautiful Dutch chandelier in brass, these wonderful Samuel Marks dining chairs that are upholstered from Liz O'Brien, and an English dining room table. So again, there are a lot of traditional elements, but I feel like the room feels fresh, and the color palette's light and airy, and the antiques feel relevant, which I love. And there's a sense of history to them, which I think is so important. Conversation and history is what antiques bring to rooms, and I love that about them. The next slide, please, is a pair of food dogs. So anybody who knows me knows that I have a passion for animals, and I love dogs. Animals are so important to me, and I love bringing nature into the house. These food dogs I found particularly charming in that I love the ceramic. I love the way they're painted. I love the expressions on their faces. They look so friendly. And you could use them not only for candlesticks, but even put flower vases. You know, you put a few flowers in them. And I love doing tablescapes with varying things. I bought from this dealer, and I bought from many of the dealers that I've shown pictures of. I've bought from Nantucket and from other places because there's a wonderful group of dealers at the antique show this year. So really you have to look hard and shop well because there's so many nice things. So here's how I've used the food dogs in my own house. So this is our library, velvet walls, one of my carpets in custom colors, a great ECAT on the sofa from Schumacher, Fortuny on the chairs, and a wonderful wicker chair, as you can see in the left of the room. It's an antique American wicker chair. I love the idea of bringing a little bit of straw or wicker into a formal room. But on the coffee table, you'll see two pairs of food dogs. And actually on the brackets are a beautiful pair of yellow food dogs. The food dogs on the brackets are porcelain, and the food dogs on the table are cloisonné. But I love to collect and add. And I love Chinese porcelain mixed with exotic fabrics, boxes, objects. You know, they tell a story of where you've been, and it's a memory of a trip. It's just, antiques are so wonderful, and I'm so happy to have so many things that I love in my house that remind me of my life and my travels. Next, we have a Chinese immortal. I love these again. I love the color combinations. I love the yellow, brown, and green and that cream in them. I use them in tablescapes. I use them as objects, and I'll actually create tablescapes, and then when we have a party, I'll take pieces out of the tablescapes in the room or out of a bookcase or off a side table and bring it onto my dining room table and mix it with other objects. So not only is it fun for the guests to see things used in a new way, but it's fun for me. It's sort of, it's a creative playground of using things in new ways. And not only does the porcelain inspire me in terms of the flower arrangements or the dishes or how I do things, it's just another creative outlet. So I encourage you to collect and use things you love and use the things you own. You know, don't keep them in closets and not take them out. You should use the best of everything you have. You should use your best dishes. You should use your best linen. If my partner Scott and I stay home, we still, you know, we eat on a beautiful dish. We eat with silverware. We use a pretty napkin. Even if it's ordering pizza from Mezzaluna, we still take it off and put it on a lovely dish. And it just feels, it makes the food taste better. It makes the conversation more interesting. It's just a wonderful way to live, and I encourage you to live and use your things and enjoy them. So the next picture, here is a buffet dinner that we did in our dining room, and you can see I collect 18th century blue and white porcelain, but I mixed these beautiful green immortal figures on the table as objects, on the buffet table. Again, I like the way you have a variety of heights. I like the way it creates atmosphere mixed with candles and flowers. it just adds excitement and romance and beauty to the table. And actually in the corner here, you can see a little bit of another food dog. So it's just fun and interesting. And it's in our purple dining room, which I'm a crazy person who says purple is a neutral. I love purple and lavender and green, and I love shades of blue. I mean, there's so many colors I love. I actually never met a color I didn't like. But our purple dining room people have always loved, and they find it very romantic, and you light candles. And the blue and white china, I think, looks so pretty in that purple plum kind of room. It just really makes the blue and white sing. Next picture, please. So back to blue and white. Here we are. These 3 beautiful blue and white jars. So I particularly like these because I love the way you have the variety of design in each cartouche. I love the organicness, the figurative. I think they're just wonderful. I think they're so easy to use. I love them, again, sitting on top of a cabinet. I love them on a mantle. I think they look amazing on a set of brackets in a living room on the walls. You know, sometimes I feel like you need to have a variety of things, not just paintings, but brackets with porcelain on it. So actually, you can see behind me, I have a bracket with a Greek vase on it. So I'm a big believer. I practice what I preach. So what I sell to my clients, I sell to myself too, and I live with the same things and love them and enjoy them. And I'm slightly obsessed with blue and white. I just find it's something I never tire of, and there's such a big range of things to collect in blue and white, which is so much fun because you get such a variety of shapes, and there are so many different patterns. So you can never tire of it. Here is the next picture, is a great friend and client's dining room where we collected blue and white. Again, here it is on brackets, the dishes on the wall. And I love the circular dishes with that wonderful Alexander Lieberman painting that's so contemporary. So again, even though I did this room quite a while ago, it still to me feels timeless because of the blue and white and the contemporary art. And in the center of the room is a dining room table that's an octagonal skirted table. So living in New York, I think we don't always use our dining rooms. So I love the idea of the room having something that felt almost like a center table. The octagonal table is something that I first saw in the Villa Malcontente outside of Venice, and it's in the Veneto, and it's just, the shape really changed the way I feel about skirted tables. And then Charles de Bastille, who was a great collector and had an incredible home called Chateau Grousset outside of Paris, he worked with Emilio Terry, one of the great decorators of the 20th century. And in his dining room, which is an incredible room called, it's actually one of his dining rooms, it's called Le Salon Hollandaise, is a wonderful big octagonal table. If you're not familiar with Charles de Bastille and the Chateau Grousset, it's something that I think any decorating junkie and anyone who loves interiors should look up and find. There's a wonderful auction catalog that you can buy online that has all of the pictures of the interiors and the furniture. So again, this room has something wonderful in the back. If you can see in the corner, there's a big ostrich, and he's a gilded carousel figure that I bought years ago with the client from H.M. Luther. And I love the whimsy of this animal, this big sort of wonderful sculptural shaped animal looming over you in the back. And I thought he's so much fun and such a great conversation piece. The chandelier is by Janssen, and it's in the shape of a hot air balloon. Janssen was one of the great decorating firms also in the 20th century that was in Paris and decorated for, you know, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, for the Shah of Iran, for Henri Samuel worked at Janssen, Stéphane Boudin worked for Janssen, he decorated for CZ Guest, and it's a wonderful firm with great history and great decorators. So again, there's 2 beautiful books on Janssen furniture and Janssen interiors that you can find. I've used here a wonderful tapestry on the tablecloth to bring richness into the room. And it also gives you the ability to mix in beautiful china and a variety of dishes. And on the floor, we put a sisal carpet to simplify the room and to tone it down. So I love the combination of luxury and sort of organic nature coming together. Even though by nature I tend to be quite a dressy decorator, I love the concept of formality mixed with informal things, with casual things. And I love the way that feels. It makes the rooms feel modern and not so stuffy. Next picture, please. So lions, again, back to my love of animals. Of course, the lion is the king of the jungle, and he's incredible, and I love them here. These are a pair of Staffordshire lions, which I think would look wonderful, again, in Nantucket on a mantle, in a bookcase. They can be brought down to a dining table to be used as objects. You can lean place cards against them or menu cards or whatever, however you choose to use them, or just, you know, put a big, beautiful centerpiece of flowers with the two lions flanking them. I found them charming. Again, they look super friendly and happy to me. I always like friendly, happy-looking animals rather than scary, mean-looking ones. So these two are adorable. And I think they're so appropriate for Nantucket. Next slide, please. So here we are in a client's Southampton bedroom, and you can see a large white ceramic lion sort of peeking out from the bedside table. Here he is, you know, sort of watching over the room and protecting the room. And again, there's tons of ceramic all over the room. There's the Delft-covered jars and the Delft cashpo with a plant in them. I love to have plants and flowers and things from nature brought into the house. It makes the house feel so alive. And there are so many beautiful plants that you can buy that aren't super expensive that just give the room light and happiness and nature. Again, not only animals and bamboo and faux bois and all of these things that I love, but plants also help to make a room feel homey and lived in and personal. Of course, flowers are always wonderful too, and I love flowers. So I think it's important to bring nature from the outside in. The bed is upholstered in a wonderful fabric from Pierre Frey, and here on the bed are a small pair of silk velvet Laminac leopard pillows, one of my signature things. I love a little bit of tiger or leopard in a room. I always feel, again, that it just, leopard and tiger, again, are total neutrals to me, and I find them just whimsical and divine. Over the bed is a sunburst mirror. I always have an issue of what to put over a bed because I feel like you don't want a big painting that's going to fall down upon you. And I love the shape of a sunburst mirror, so I'll often use sunburst mirrors or, you know, flanked by a pair of brackets with objects on them or something sort of just whimsical and fun over the bed. It also brings light into the room, so I love mirrors. Next picture, please. So here we are with a divine Buccellati silver pumpkin. Super practical to me because I think they're wonderful as candy jars. I think they look great on the center of a table. So I found myself during COVID when, you know, I was getting flowers, but not as much as, you know, I wanted because they were harder to find and harder to get. I used silver objects from the house as centerpieces, flanked by hurricanes. And I just thought it was such an elegant and lovely way to use these things. And either you can take the lid off and fill them with whatever you want, or just have them sitting on the table with the lid. It's just a wonderful centerpiece. And also I've been setting, of course, because of COVID, I've been setting the table outside in the garden. And on our back terrace, we have a lovely bamboo table with Bielecki wicker chairs, all in blue and white. And I would create these tablescapes by using objects from the interiors, but things that felt relevant to the garden. And I love this piece because it's something that you would find in a garden, but it's silver. So it's that man-manipulated nature that I love so much. And it's a great centerpiece. Next picture, please. So here is our family living room in the Hamptons, and you can see a wonderful seed pod by Vandekar sitting on the table. Again, that was something that, it's a cute story. So Mario Botta found one at, well, I walked by Louis Bofferding, who's a great antique dealer in New York, and he had that seed pod in the window. So Louis and I are friends. I called him right away on his cell phone, and I said, Louis, I want that seed pod. I love it. He said, Al, you're not going to be happy. Mario bought it last night. I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me. So anyway, the next time I saw Mario, who was a great friend of mine, and he wrote the foreword to my book. I adored Mario Botta. He was an incredible talent and a genius. And he said to me, Alex, I can't tell you how many years I've been looking for this Vandekar seed pod. So he said, you know what, Alex, I'll leave it to you in my will. Well, needless to say, 3-4 years ago, I was walking around in Southampton. I was out for the Christmas vacation, and I went to town to one of my antique stores, which, again, it's so important to support your local antique stores and to shop in your local towns. You know, I'm so happy to be in New York, and I come in 3 days a week to support my city, to have dinner in New York, to shop in the stores, and to use the city. So everybody really needs to support their hometowns and pay attention to that, because businesses are in trouble, and it's very important right now, more than ever. But anyway, so I was in Southampton shopping, and I found this seed pod in silver in Ann Madoni Antiques in Southampton. Well, I bought it right away and fell in love with it. And the first thing I did was I took a picture of it, and I called and said, Mario, I don't need to wait for you to die to inherit that silly thing. I have one myself. So please, I want you to live forever and not worry about me, because I've got mine. Well, Mario's was in his auction, and it went for a lot more money than I paid for it, or he paid for it. But that same silver Vandekar seed pod was in Mario's auction. And speaking of Mario, the little dog on the table in our living room, the little white Chinese blanc de chine dog with the little gilded collar sitting on the ormolu base, he was Mario's, and I did buy him from Mario's auction. And he had belonged to Jane Engelhardt, who had hired Sister Parish to decorate her house in Far Hills. So it went from Sister Parish buying it for Jane Engelhardt to Mario buying it to me buying it for Mario's auction. So it's a very special little piece to me because it has history, and it belonged to a great friend. And it sits next to that seed pod that Mario and I both own. So I thought it's just a funny little story. Again, our living room here is, so these sofas were actually in my sister's Park Avenue living room. She moved, we redecorated them, and we brought them out to our Hamptons house. They are in a Clarence House fabric that they have been in for 25 years. Our dogs sit on the furniture. We have huge family Christmas parties. We have used and lived on these sofas. Again, the silk velvet tiger that I love. And again, don't be afraid to use your living room. I always tell this to people. Your living room is called your living room because you are meant to live in it. So enjoy your house. Live in it. You know, make the best of it. Have family and friends, and don't be afraid to use your rooms and your things. So next picture, please. So here is a wonderful convex mirror with an eagle and candlesticks on it. So I love these mirrors, and I think they're just so pretty. I love the way they reflect the room. Again, I love animals, so I love the eagle. And of course, the eagle is the symbol of America, and I love that about him. And I love the balls going around. I love the convex mirror. I love the candlesticks, and I think it's so beautiful to light the candles and to actually put real candles on it. Nothing is more beautiful than a mirror reflecting candlelight. You know, if you think about it, Versailles, the Hall of Mirrors, all of that was built to reflect candles and the romance and the magic that that creates. So this creates a smaller version of that magic. And again, I think this mirror is so perfect for somewhere in Nantucket. I think it looks great in the hallway. It looks great in the living room. It looks great in between a pair of curtains, 2 pairs of curtains. It looks, you know, it's so easy to use in a little divine in a powder room. So many options for this mirror. And a little bit of gold just brings something je ne sais quoi. I love it. But I feel like this is so classic and such a wonderful element. It's just timeless and divine. So the next picture shows you how I've used. So here's an eagle mirror used in a client's entrance hall. And when she entertains, she lights those candles, and you have real candlelight. There it's set on a wonderful leaf wallpaper from Clarence House, a big pair of Delft jars with a big, beautiful blue and white platter sitting on a Portuguese table. And there's a wonderful pair of Portuguese chairs that I bought at Christie's years ago, a custom-made carpet. And parrot sconces flanking it. So it's a bit of a bird party, but I do love my animals. You can see in my interiors. And most of my clients embrace them and love animals too. It's a wonderful house in Litchfield, Connecticut that I've decorated and decorated over the years. And the client has become quite addicted to decorating an object. So she's got quite a collection going. And I always encourage my clients to collect and have things that they love around them and to use them and to enjoy them. So the next picture, please. So here is a beautiful instant collection, which I think is so divine that you can actually have these 4 boxes and have a perfect collection, either a beginner collection to add to your collection, but I love them and I love the variety of shapes. That's what I think is so wonderful. I love the mother of pearl, the tortoise shell. I think it's so divine. I think they're so attractive. Again, I think they look beautiful in a modern room. I think they look beautiful in a room that's all in creams and beiges. I think they look great in a room full of color. I find them so organic and they bring that naturalness into a room that's just so beautiful and timeless. So I love these. And now I'll show you in our own living room in New York how I also have a collection of boxes. Different boxes, but a collection of boxes. Here I have a collection of lean vitrine Japanese boxes, these wonderful little Peter Marino boxes that I bought from Gagosian Gallery that he makes, some blue and white, silver gilt covered little hot chocolate pots, a beautiful little lacquer snuff box that I bought from Bunny Mellon's collection, a fabulous pair of cloisonne birds, and on the side over here you'll see a Vladimir flower. Vladimir, again, if you're not familiar with him, he is an incredible Russian artist who makes these beautiful fruits and flowers that are extremely collectible. He had an amazing exhibit in the Hermitage in Russia 2 years ago. He's an incredible talent. Look him up. I adore Vladimir, and I placed a small contemporary painting on the back of this black lacquer commode that I bought in Paris. The lamp was a gift. The purple, the kind of plum ormolu-mounted lamp was a gift from my old business partner with a blue and cream silk shade. Next to it, flanked, is a pair of chairs upholstered in satin, where I've cut and pasted the satin to create my own design. And the walls are in Gracie wallpaper. So again, this was a story for me because I had always seen pictures of Jane Wrightsman's Palm Beach living room that I'd fallen in love with. And she used Chinese wallpaper in her living room. Well, the Wrightsman house, which has since been torn down, originally belonged to Mona von Bismarck when she was Mona Williamson. And she lived in this house with her first husband. It was decorated by Siri Mon. And then it went from them to the Wrightsmans. And the Wrightsmans bought it. But first it was Stéphane Boudin who decorated it. And they kept the Chinese wallpaper. And then it was finished later by sort of refreshed and redone by Denning and Foucault. But you see this room with this incredible 18th century Chinese wallpaper through all the different decorations. So I had always wanted Chinese wallpaper in my living room, and we put it in our living room. It just, nothing makes me happier. I found an antique document and gave it to Jennifer Gracie, and she created this. I chose every color that each person was wearing. I chose the animals. It was a true labor of love, and it's Chinese village scenes. So there's architecture, there's nature, there's animals, there's everything I love. And I sit in the club chair in my living room and just, love my wallpaper, and I see something new. When I first made the decision to do it, I thought, oh my God, this is expensive. And then I realized it was actually not that expensive because you can't put much art on Chinese wallpaper because it's so scenic. So it's actually a bargain to have Chinese wallpaper in your living room. And it's custom and unique. And again, it's so personal, which I love. Nobody has exactly my wallpaper, our wallpaper in their house. And it's divine. So next slide, please. So it seems to be we have an eagle theme going, but there are a lot of birds, it's true. But I love these eagle consoles. Again, I find them so sculptural and so interesting, and I'm always attracted to gilded furniture. I love the marble tops to them. And I think that they look so wonderful in a variety of spaces. I think they look amazing flanking doors coming into a dining room or going out of a dining room. I think they look beautiful in an entrance hall or a big gallery. I love them with sort of wonderful, like I would take them and find a fabulous pair of contemporary mirrors to put on top of them and put two Christopher Spitzmiller lamps on them in a fun, whimsical color so that there's that mix of sort of modern and traditional. And I just think these are so handy and beautiful. And I also feel like they feel very Nantucket because they feel Americana. And I love that kind of Americana feeling in Nantucket, but still grand and important looking. So next picture is a picture of how I use them. So this again is in that Kips Bay living room. And I used a pair of these beautiful, enormous gilt eagle consoles that were from Kentshire that were amazing. And you see I've set them with a pair of hurricanes, a beautiful ceramic lamp, a bronze deer, fresh flowers, a contemporary piece of art, and a wonderful carved marble sculpture of shells. So you see all of the constant references to animals and nature in my interiors that I really learned by studying the decorative arts and the history of interiors and how people love to bring these natural elements into the house in a man-made way, which I find so fascinating and interesting. You know, I'm not so much of a nature person myself, but I love man-manipulated nature. I love formal gardens and topiaries and trees. I love nature when man has his hands on it and creates it in an incredible way. So the next slide, please. Here's a wonderful gilt console. Again, always find great uses for gilt consoles. I love this piece so much because I love the carving on it. I love that it's got 4 legs so you don't have to attach it to the wall. I thought the marble top was so beautiful because I love the way it blended with the gilded piece. You know, these antique marbles, you can't find them anymore, and I think that's what makes it so special. I love the shape of the top, the carving on the furniture. I love the Rococo elements. And I think they look beautiful in traditional and in contemporary interiors. I mean, that would look amazing with a contemporary painting over it. I love to tuck, you know, a wicker basket under a gilt console, that high and low thing. I love to place it on a sisal carpet or put it on a stone floor. So next you'll see a picture of how I've used a very similar gilt console table in a big Southampton entrance hall, an amazing gallery, a house that I built from the ground up with Fairfax and Salmons. And here's an entirely white paneled entrance hall that's double height, big Delft chandelier, wonderful Iglo-Mise Turks hanging above it, pair of Chinese Chippendale chairs, but really 20th century Chinese Chippendale chairs. And I love the mix of high and low. And there you see I've placed a fern under it to bring something very natural and organic back into the room to tone down the gilt console because we're using a gilt console in Southampton. It was originally in the client's New York living room, but they sold the New York apartment, they moved to London, and we brought the console to Southampton. So to tone it down, I put that fern underneath it. So I love the way that feels, and they love it. And we are so happy to have that history of something that was from their New York apartment that we kept it and reused it in the Southampton hall. Do we have any more slides, or is that it? Oh, no, we do. We have these wonderful blue and white jars. So I bought many things from this dealer. I think he has wonderful things. Earle has lovely stuff. And I love the scale of these again. I think there's something so wonderful and natural about the flowers. I love blue and white porcelain with flowers on them. I love the animals atop, and I love the handles that are shaped like animals' faces. I think that's so wonderful. I like these because they're so nice and big, and I think they're divine on the floor, flanking a fireplace, in a hall, on a pair of consoles. I just love the scale of them. You can take the lids off and fill them up with branches during the holidays, or, you know, so many things you can do with them. And I just think that they're so stylish and easy to use, and they can have nothing in them but just be sitting there. So I think that these are just divine, and I might buy these myself. They're so good looking. So next you'll see how I've used them. So here we are in our own dining room in the Hamptons. where there's this big, wonderful bookcase that I reused from the old dining room that it had actually a TV in it. I took the TV out and put the shelves back in and used it as a storage cabinet and as a cabinet of curiosity in our Hamptons dining room. A wonderful set of chairs with custom applique from Holland and Sherry. And here you see a big, wonderful blue and white jar on the floor that actually had belonged to Bunny Mellon. It was in her collection. And I bought it from a wonderful antique dealer in New York who was selling some of Bunny's things at the time. You'll see there are a pair of gilt brackets. Here's one. They're flanking the cabinet, and on top of it are cloisonné elephants. The brackets were actually CZ Guests, so I bought them from Stair Galleries, and I love to buy things with a sense of history, and I love to know where they came from, and, you know, imagine the story these antiques could tell if they could talk, and where they've been and who they've seen and what they've done. So I love that. I love that sense of a story and where something comes from. I think, do we still have more? Yep, we have this wonderful shell fireplace. Again, super chic in Nantucket. I love seashells. I love bringing something from nature into the house. I think it's divine. I really haven't seen too many shell fireplaces, so I think it's very special. I think it's so appropriate for the location, and I love the concept. In our own dining room, now you'll see in the Hamptons, I collect blue and white porcelain, as I've told you. So I use Delft tiles in our fireplace, which is something that I love. It was something that I've seen. You'll see it throughout history, Delft tiles in the fireplace. And I love them because it works so well with tying the blue and white porcelain. But as do the Delft tiles work in the Hamptons, the shells work in Nantucket, because you can, you know, put baskets on the table filled with real shells and have that wonderful shell fireplace. I just love the concept. I think it's so divine. In the back of our dining room is a bamboo plant stand. I love a little bit of wicker or straw brought into the room. The carpet, my sister and I found at Stark. It was a little too big for the room, but we thought that looked so wonderful. It looked like that we'd had it, and that it was something that we'd inherited and brought with us. I love that feeling. On the mantle are a pair of Christopher Spitzmiller gourds that are divine, a contemporary painting, Russian chandelier, and there's that bookcase. So this picture was probably taken, I don't know, 8 years ago. Now that bookcase is so chock-a-block with blue and white porcelain and collections of things that it's just crazy. So I practice what I preach, and I love antiques, and I'm a shopaholic, and I can't wait to get to the antique show myself. And I encourage you all to have fun and shop. And, you know, we're so lucky to be healthy and out and about shopping still, and to support the Historical Association, which is such a wonderful cause. And I can't wait to come back in person and be able to shop. But for now, I'm so happy to be here. And thank you all so much for having me. It really is a pleasure to talk about shopping and antiques, two of my favorite subjects.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to go to the question and answer session now. Our inimitable chair, Kelly Williams, has I think what is a great question. She would like you to share the one that got away. Is there an antique you didn't buy that you still wish that you had?
That's a really good question. You know, it's a funny thing because I'm a little bit of a fatalist, truthfully. I feel like if it's not meant to be, it's just not meant to be. I have bid on things that I haven't gotten, and I found, you know what, the next time I find something better. And first of all, I've got my eye on the ball all the time. So I pretty much don't miss out. If I miss it this time, I'll catch it next time. And most of the things that I buy were not one of a kind. They were made, I mean, maybe there were 10 of them, but, you know, like that gourd, the Mario story. You know, that happened. And I found it. And so most of the time, 99% of the time, I don't really regret in life. And there's so many beautiful things to have that, and I have so many beautiful things. I mean, look, I could tell you an art story that sort of upset me. So years ago, I was offered by a very, very dear friend and a great client, a painting by an artist by the name of Stingle. It was a beautiful sort of damask pattern in gold. And the painting was, I think it was $35,000. And so it must have been just when I moved into my apartment. So it was probably 8 years ago. And it was before Stingle really took off and he became the huge phenomenon that he became. Well, I didn't buy the painting because I felt like it was too big and I didn't want it on my Chinese wallpaper and I couldn't figure out where to put it. I really liked it, but I didn't buy it. I saw that painting, the one that I passed up at auction for $1.2 million. So,
Wow.
Again, it wasn't meant to be. That painting wasn't meant to be mine. That somebody else had it. Good for them. That's life. I have so many beautiful things. I'm so thankful for everything I have. Who cares? It's not that important. In the scheme of things, it doesn't matter. And I think you have to have a little bit of that attitude. You can't worry about spilt milk. You have to go on and be thankful for your good fortune and for everything you do have. But is it a little right here? A little bit. But I got over it.
I'd say you have a really good attitude about it all. We have another question from the audience. First of all, they've complimented you on your lovely presentation. And it's Erin Shanley asking if you have a rule of thumb in terms of proportion in your mixing antiques with contemporary items.
Well, for me, one of the most important things in decoration is scale. So in order to be a decorator and a good decorator, you need to have a sense of scale. Scale is crucial to good interiors. Now, when you know scale and know how to work with it, can you tweak it and play with it? Absolutely. Every once in a while, I'll love like an overscaled chandelier in a room to be sort of a crazy, wonderful thing. Or, sometimes a painting that fills the wall is amazing because it creates something wonderful. But in terms of the scale of your furniture, I don't believe in huge upholstery. I don't believe in overscaled furniture. I like more furniture and more human scaled furniture. And I also think that things should always be comfortable and user friendly. So those are always, I never buy a chair I haven't sat in for a client. I won't buy a dining room chair unless I can sit in it. If it's somewhere else, I'll have one chair shipped to New York. I'll pay to ship it, the client and I, and we will sit in the chair. We will not buy chairs that we've never sat in. I think it's very important that things be comfortable and usable. And they need to look right in proportion with the other things in the room. And that is tricky. It can be tricky.
It is tricky. And I think it's one of the reasons to hire a designer who understands, like yourself, who understands scale. We have a question from Kathy Bush-Dutton, who's a friend and colleague. Kathy is the publisher of New England Home Magazine. And I know you've just taken us through a number of items that you saw from the dealers selling tonight, but she wants to know if there's anything else you have your eye on and why.
Well, these were my favorite items that I've seen, but I did not get to see every single thing in the show. So you can be sure the moment I get off the phone with you, I'm going right into shop. I'm going to scour those booths and look at those dealers and go through everything I can find. I want to see everything. And that's what I do at antique shows. Normally what I do is I walk around an antique show very quickly because there are certain things that will catch my eye instantly. And then I go back and go through it slowly because I know there are always, there are Alex things that I love. There's always, a piece of chinoiserie or a gilt chair or, a pair of brackets or a beautiful mirror or a pair of lamps or, an amazing piece of silver or some blue and white porcelain, all things. I've always got my eye out and I'm always shopping. So I have not seen everything, so I can't wait to see everything that there is.
I already told you I'm going to be fighting over the food dogs with you. We had another question. Given the virtual nature of the world right now, not just this show, but in general, how can you guide our guests to searching for beautiful items when they can't touch or feel them or see them up close?
Well, it's tricky, and I can tell you my one of my favorite stories. So I have a great client in New York. So I make mistakes too. I mean, we all make mistakes. It does happen. But, you learn your lessons the hard way. I had a divine client who I adored, who we were actually, I did a number of homes for in LA, and I did a big apartment in New York for her and her husband. And we were doing their apartment in the arts and crafts aesthetic movement. So I found a beautiful, in an auction catalog, a beautiful silver tea set that I fell in love with. I showed it to the client. She said, great. Love it, Alex. Buy it. So by accident, I forgot to read the fine print. It was a catalog in New Orleans, and it was a little picture, and I didn't pay enough attention to reading the scale. Well, the tea set, I bid at auction, I buy the tea set, and the tea set arrives. It was for a dollhouse. It was a miniature tea set for a child to play or a collector to put on a table. So I look at this tea set, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I said, well, certainly can't make the client pay for this. This is my mistake. I will eat the tea set, but I have to tell the client what happened and show it to them. So the client comes in for a meeting, and I showed her the tea set, and I said, Gretchen, I'm mortified. I feel so terrible. It's totally my mistake. This is not your problem. I will take this tea set. I will keep it. It's my problem. She said, no. She said, Alex, I will take this tea set. It is mine, and it is your Achilles heel, and I will hold on to it for the rest of my life as a reminder that Alex Papachristidis made a little boo-boo, and I love every moment of it. So she has that tea set sitting in a cabinet, and so every time I see that tea set, I start sweating. I think to myself, but what do I do? So what I do is if I'm looking at something that's online, or I'm buying something that I don't know about, I will take out a measuring tape. I will look at the measurements of the piece, and then I will take a piece of furniture in my house, in my office, wherever I am, and I will measure against that. So if it's a dining room chair, I will take a dining room chair and I will measure off of that. So I get a sense of what I have here and what this is going to be and how it's going to look. Because that's really it's a chest of drawers. Measure a chest of drawers, and you have to say, okay, I know it's a foot bigger and 6 inches taller and 5 inches deeper. So you can have something physical in front of you to understand and look very closely, because if it says the chest of drawers is 4 inches by 3 inches, it's probably something for a dollhouse.
Thank you for that. Kathy Bush has thanked you as well and said if only we could walk the show and with Alex and hear his input on how he sees the items. This seems like an interesting question, and we'll wrap it up in a moment, but have you ever designed a Scottish-themed room with Georgian Adam antiques and tasty, trendy tartans?
I've used plaids, and I do love plaids. I love plaids and checks. And I think that, of course, plaids and checks look wonderful with English furniture. I have not specifically done that. But I've used plaids on furniture in English rooms. I haven't done the whole room in a plaid, but I love them, and I think it's a fun way to do it. I personally don't believe in wool upholstery. I don't like to sit on wool. Mm-hmm. I like wool curtains. I like wool walls, upholstered walls. But I do not use wool on upholstery because I find it itchy. And I think, you know what? Every once in a while, maybe you're in your boxers and a T-shirt in your library, and I don't want to sit on an itchy chair. So I love wool, but I don't like it so much on the upholstery. But there are beautiful cotton and, now cottons and linen plaids and checks that look great.
Excellent. I'm going to ask one last question before we move on to the next part of the evening. I know I've seen you interviewed before a number of times, and always so enjoyable. So thank you so much for your for being yourself and sharing so much knowledge with us. But I know from having seen you interviewed that you have a marvelous tradition of keeping 9 lemons on the center of your dining table. And I wonder if you could explain the story behind that.
Well, you know, Kathleen, it's more of a superstition than a tradition now. It's like compulsion, because I'm Greek. We're very superstitious. So, you know, as my friends all know me, I'm like a crazy person with the superstition. I will not, if I see a ladder leaning on a building or leaning on a scaffolding, I will walk into the street. I will probably be killed in traffic, hit by a car, trying to get away from a ladder. I will not walk under a ladder. Okay, so I'm a crazy person. Anyway, so I read that 9 yellow lemons in Feng Shui bring prosperity and good luck to the home. Well, all I needed to hear. In the Hamptons, they're on our breakfast table. In New York, they're on our dining room table. So during COVID, we kind of fled to the Hamptons, and we weren't in the city that much in the beginning. And I'm telling you, without those lemons on my New York dining room table, it wasn't good.
Oh, dear.
So the moment I got back home, I put those 9 yellow lemons on my dining room table. And I know you think I'm crazy. I know it sounds cuckoo, but I really believe it. And I think that it works.
I want to tell you, I've done it ever since you told me.
It has to be on the dining room table, right? Or the breakfast table or table you eat at. And, you know, as I said, again, everybody's like, oh, it's, you know, what happens when the lemons go bad? As they start to get soft, you put them in the refrigerator and you make lemonade with them. You know, you use them. Don't throw them away. Don't waste them. And what's yummier than fresh homemade lemonade? And also you can find a divine container at the antique show to put them in. You know, and I change my containers. Sometimes they're in a beautiful Benini glass bowl. Sometimes they're in a silver bucket. Sometimes they're in a piece of blue and white porcelain. So I shake it up and change them. But those lemons are always there.
I love it. Phoebe Tudor would like me to pass on how much we all love you and she misses you.
Oh, I love Phoebe. And I love Nantucket, and I'm so sorry that I'm not coming this summer, but I love it. And it's such a beautiful place. It's so charming, and the antique show is so much fun, and the luncheon and the whole thing. It's so wonderful. And you guys do such a great job, really.
Well, we hope to be live and in person next year, but this has been wonderful. I think it's time, as much as I'd love to keep talking to you. It's so much fun.
Well, it's time for shopping.
It's time to get shopping.